So this is the first chapter of Guyton book. The name of the chapter is Functional Organization of the Human Body and Control of the Internal Environment. So what all we are learning here? Learning objectives are to compare the intracellular and the extracellular fluid, define homeostasis, describe the role of the nervous and the hormonal system in the regulation, describe the normal ranges of the important constituents and the physical characteristics of the extracellular fluid, describe the process and the purpose of the negative feedback with examples, explain the concepts and the purpose of the gain of the control system, describe the process and purpose of positive feedback with examples. So here some important terms are there, glossary of terms. First is homeostasis. Maintenance of near constant conditions in the internal environment is in extracellular fluid. Okay. So it is basically the maintenance of the near constant conditions in the internal environment in extracellular fluid. Now coming to the second term is negative feedback. That is feedback that reduces, hence negative feedback that reduces the output of a given system. For example, higher circulating levels of a hormone reduce the further secretion of that hormone. Okay. Now coming to positive feedback that increases, hence positive. So feedback that increases the positive feedback that increases the output of a system. For example, injury resulting in the bleeding, which results in the release of the clotting factors that themselves increase the clotting process. Okay, so coming to the next paragraph. Physiology is the science that seeks to explain the physical and the chemical mechanisms that are responsible for the origin, development and the progression of life, which are responsible for the origin, development and the progression of life. Each type of life, from the simplest virus to the largest tree or the complicated human being, has its own functional characteristics. Therefore, the vast field of physiology can be divided into viral physiology, bacterial physiology, cellular physiology, plant physiology, invertebrate physiology, vertebrate physiology, mammalian physiology, human physiology and many more subdivisions. So coming to human physiology, what is human physiology? The science of human physiology attempts to explain the specific characteristics and the mechanisms of the human body that make it a living being. The fact that we remain alive is the result of the complex control systems, like hunger makes us seek food, fear makes us seek refuge, and sensations of the cold makes us look for warmth. Other forces which cause us to seek fellowship and to reproduce. The fact that we are sensing, feeling and knowledgeable beings is a part of this automatic sequence of life. These special attributes allow us to exist under widely varying conditions which otherwise would make the life impossible. Okay, so cells are the living units of the body. The basic living unit of the body is a cell. Each organ is an aggregate of many different cells held together by intracellular supporting structures. Each type of cell is specifically adapted to perform one or a few particular functions. For instance, the red blood cells, the numbering about 25 trillion in each human body, transport oxygen from the lungs to the tissues. They transport oxygen from the lungs to the tissues. Although the red blood cells are most abundant of any single type of cell in the body, about 75 trillion additional cells of other types perform functions different from those of the red blood cells. The entire body then contains those 100 trillion cells. So, although many cells of the body often differ markedly from one another, all of them have certain basic characteristics that are alike. For instance, oxygen reacts with carbohydrate, fat and protein. Oxygen reacts with carbohydrate, fat and protein to release energy required for all the cells to function. Further, general chemical mechanisms for changing nutrients into energy are basically the same in all the cells, and all the cells deliver the products of their chemical reactions into the surrounding fluids. So almost all the cells also have the ability to reproduce additional cells of their own kind. Fortunately, when the cells of a particular type are destroyed, the remaining cells of this type usually generate new cells until the supply is replenished. So, extracellular fluid, that is the internal environment. About 60% of the adult human body is fluid, mainly a water solution of ions. Understood. About 60% of the human body is fluid, mainly a water solution of ions and other substances. Although most of this fluid is inside the cells and is called intracellular fluid, about one third is in the space outside the cells and is called extracellular fluid. This extracellular fluid is in constant motion throughout the body. It is transported rapidly in the circulating blood and then mixed between the blood and the tissue fluids by diffusion through the capillary walls. So in the extracellular fluid, the extracellular fluid are the ions and the nutrients needed by the cells to maintain the life. Thus all the cells live in essentially the same environment, the extracellular fluid. For this reason, the extracellular fluid is also called the internal environment of the body or the milieu interior, a term introduced more than 150 years ago by the great 19th century French physiologist Claude Bernard. So, cells are capable of living and performing their special functions as long as the proper concentrations of oxygen, glucose, continuing in the next video.